What is up, YouTube? Hello, Party Parrots. I'm so excited to be bringing you guys this video because today is patch day, and we finally got data mines for not just next month, but what looks like the entire month of January as well. Over 12 cards in total. So this is going to be a long video. I'm going to jump right into it, but before I do want to say that first of all that this is all data mined information. None of this has been confirmed by Second Dinner or anyone on the Marvel Snap team. So this could all change. Cards could come out completely different. We've had cards not come out at all that were data mined to come out. So again, this could all change, but for the most part, these do generally stay how they are. But so looking at the future, we can see that it seems that in December we will be getting a Marvel Rivals crossover. And I think that this is the reason why we haven't been getting the data mines for the next cards. Usually we can see them in advance. I know a lot of people were speculating it was because Second Dinner was cracking down on it. I think it's because they didn't probably legally weren't obligated or allowed to show what this crossover was yet. So it seems like this is the case, and I really hope it is because I love data mines, and the fact that we got January is really looking at that. So let's look. I'm going to start with December, the Marvel Rival seasons, break down all the cards in there, give them all a star rating, and then we can look forward to January, the Dark Avengers season, which is also looking sweet. And these seasons are having some of my favorite cards, probably in all of Marvel Snap. I'm not going to hold it up any longer. Let's start here with the season pass card for December. Galacta, daughter of Galactus, is looking to be the December season pass card, and we are starting out with a banger. She is a 4/6 with the ability each turn, the first card you play at another location reveals with an additional +3 power. So I gave this card 5 stars, and the reason is I think I've seen from Gwenpool how powerful just a pretty much 4/12 can be. So, and I think that's exactly what this is. But looking at what Galacta does, I think this isn't going to trigger each location that you play a card. I think it is the first card you play at any other location. So you don't want to play the first card on Galacta, or you can put the first one on her as long as you're putting another one somewhere else. I think that's going to be very important for power. And looking at her, I mean, we've seen from Gwenpool, right, just how good a 4/12 is that lets you put power out in else ways. And yes, Gwenpool has things like Mysterio that can really help Sebastian Shaw, but we've also seen a lot of Gwenpool decks that just getting an extra 6 power kind of spread out was just enough. Decks like Silver Surfer, decks like Sarah decks, lots of decks just play Gwenpool kind of fairly, and I think Galactica has that power as well, where yes, you can just be playing, as long as you're playing a card on turn 5 and a card on turn 6, this is a 4/12, and you can also play it with cards that synergize. Obviously, she is the daughter of Galactus, so she is going to synergize great with Galactus. You can play potentially her on turn 4 into a turn 5 Symbiote Spider-Man into a turn 6 Galactus, activate the Symbiote Spider-Man. That's going to be 19 power if you do that, and that should win you the game. Is that going to be enough to bring back Galactus? We'll wait and see. But even outside of that, something like Iron Man, if you play her on 4, Iron Man on 5, that's going to be a 5/3 Iron Man. 5/7 if you Agent Venomed it. We've seen how powerful getting power onto Iron Man is. Or the Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde is another card where if you just play out a Kitty Pryde on that turn 5, that's an extra +3 power. That's like old Elsa buff. And again, it's just so easy to unlock Galacta's condition because of course you're going to be playing cards out, and that's pretty much all she asks. So I think I'm going to give her a 5-star again, just because she's going to be so versatile. And there will be a lot of individual decks that are going to want her. Potentially Black Panther. Wong Black Panther things could play her as another way to buff that Black Panther. And so I had to give her 5 stars, starting out with a banger. And now we have our first Spotlight Cash card, Luna Snow. So Luna Snow is a 3/5, so already good stat lines with the on reveal add an ice cube to each side of this location. And I've seen some confusion about this, but what this means is that you will be getting an ice cube and your opponent will be getting an ice cube. And what is an ice cube? Ice cubes are 1/0s with the ability at the start of each turn get +1 energy. Then destroy this if your side is full here. And what this is basically doing is this is going to be kind of like a wave where you are going to be ramping as well as ramping your opponent. Now, wave has traditionally been a good card because you can take much more advantage of ramping when you are building around it than your opponent can. But this does obviously have the drawback of, again, ramping your opponent. But I think this is still going to be a pretty insanely powerful card. And so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And that's because if you look at what this card is kind of doing, it's also going to be cluttering your opponent. And it's not just going to be cluttering them, because much like the Widow's Kiss, they can get rid of it. But if you're a savvy Marvel Snap player, which I imagine many of you are if you're watching this video, you might be able to like pick Luna Snow in an Angela Hope Summers lane where they were already going to pick 3 cards, and then you can put it on there, it'll fill their location and get destroyed. So there will be ways you can maneuver like that. If you can even put it in a place where they only have 2 cards, you could really hamper your opponent because they're not going to want to get rid of their ice cube, but they might be really hurting themselves by not playing into that lane and trying to make the most out of their energy, because if they wait until the last turn, well, they might only have 1 slot available in that lane then, which could really affect, if you only have 1 slot available, there's a lot of times a maximum amount of power your deck can put in that lane. So I think the savvy Marvel Snap player will really be able to take advantage of this, and I think that it's a very unique downside to one of these ramp cards, because it's one you can kind of mitigate by maybe doing some of your own clutter shenanigans, and 2, by the fact that you don't really need to build around it. It's almost more of a play around it. You can just play this in any deck and just have 1 extra energy basically every other turn. Now, your opponent might too, but I think that's really where this card's going to shine. And so, I mean, obviously any 5-drop, any 6-drop is going to synergize really well with Luna Snow. But again, I just think that she could almost be a generically good card where you'd want to put her in really any deck. So I gave her 4 out of 5. Again, we'll see how she actually plays out. I was a bit hesitant to give her 5 out of 5 just because we haven't really seen an effect like this, especially not one with all these things tied up. But I think it is phenomenal design from the Marvel Snap team and just shows how much more space there is for new cards in Marvel Snap. Next up, we have what is probably my favorite card, not just of the season, but maybe the entire data mine, which is Peni Parker. Now, Peni Parker is a 2/3 with the on reveal, add Spider to your hand. When this merges, you get +1 extra energy next turn. And I think that this might be the most interesting card Marvel Snap has maybe ever released. And so what is Spider? Spider is a 3/3 with on reveal. Merge this with one of your cards here. You can move that card next turn. And first of all, as a flavor card, I think this card is a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 even. You have Peni Parker, who drives the mech Spider. So she's a 2/3, gonna add the mech to your hand. Then she's so good at piloting things, when she merges with anything, she's gonna give you a bonus, give you that extra energy. Then you have the actual mech, which is gonna merge. It's a mech, so other people can ride in it, and then let you move. Spiders move. You've seen it with Ghost Spider. We've seen it with Spider-Man. Again, I think every single part of this card is an absolute knockout. I'm honestly surprised with how well they did making this card. Then, when you look at it from a gameplay perspective, it's doing so many things. I gave this card a 5 out of 5 stars, but I'm taking a big swing with that one, because it might be doing too much in that kind of narrower, more powerful cards can kind of end up taking over. But if you think about all the things this is doing, is 1, it's giving you like merge synergy, which we've never seen before. Cards like Agony and Hulkbuster, even like Phoenix Force, all these cards that merge cards this will give you extra energy for playing these. Now, do you play Peni Parker with these cards? I'm not sure. Right now, I'm guessing probably no. It'll be enough just to have the spider in your hand, but maybe you will. Then you have everything that the spider is going to be giving you. It's going to merge into another card, so it's not taking up a space. You can move that card. It basically gives you a one-turn Jeff to any card you want. Cards like Multiple Man, Human Torch. Maybe you'll play this in Move. Maybe you'll just play this in decks where you just want to be able to move something, you know? Sure, I'll move my Wiccan into another lane. Why not? Or maybe, again, you can just put it on the Peni Parker and also ramp. You're ramping. You have merge synergies. You get to move synergies. Like, it's so many different things. I had to give this card a 5 out of 5. Now, again, it might be that, you know, a 3-3 isn't the best stat line. Getting 1 extra energy for merging, how many times are you really going to do that? It could be kind of spreading itself too thin, but I had to give it 5 stars. This card just seems so much fun to me, and I'm so looking forward to Peni Parker. Now we have Doom 2099. And yes, we are getting another Doom, and he looks sweet. He is a 4-2, so not the greatest stat lines, but he has the ability, after each turn, add a Doombot 2099 to a random location if you played exactly 1 card. And then we can look at what Doombot 2099 is, which is also a 4-2, with the ongoing, your other Doom bots and Doom have +1 power. So if you play this card out on turn 4, at the end of the turn, you will make a Doom bot, which will be a 4-2 with that ongoing, which will buff your Dr. Doom, giving you essentially 5 power for 4. Then, if you play a 5-drop on 5, I think he's going to synergize obviously really well with cards like Legion, just kind of generically good 5-drop cards. Then you'll make another one, that'll be a 4-2, ongoing, hit those other 2, be hit by the other Doom bots +1, so it'll have 3 power, it'll be giving 2 more power, so that'll be 7 power. And then if you play a 6-drop, and very important to note, it is saying currently, and again, these are data mines, this could change, but it's saying your other Doom bots and Doom have +1 power. So it looks like it's going to synergize with Dr. Doom, just 6-5, add 2 Doom bots. And if that is the case, then that would be an insane 4-5-6. You would be adding so much power. For the Dr. Doom lovers out there, I can't imagine a more perfect card for you. Dr. Doom is one of, if not my favorite cards in Marvel Snap, and I'm so looking forward to this. I gave him a 4.5 out of 5. I think, honestly, this playing exactly 1 card each turn is something that we really don't see a lot of decks doing. There's so many different ways to synergize. We've been getting so many cards that usually it's not the right answer to be playing only 1 card. So that took it half a star off for me. But if you look at, you know, what you're getting from this 4-drop, I think this is going to re-bring back those good 5-drops, those good 6-drops. And it's just such a fun and unique effect. Again, I think they blew it out of the park with this entire season. 4.5 stars out of me. I will definitely be playing with Dr. Doom 2099. Now we have Bruce Banner. That's right, not the Hulk, but Bruce Banner. He is a 2-1 with the ability, when you end a turn with unspent energy, 25% chance to Hulk out. Now, I don't know exactly what Hulk out means. We've seen Banner Hulk in the data mines. It has art, but it doesn't have like a power toughness. So unclear exactly what it means, but I think we can pretty well guess that it is going to be turning Bruce Banner into the Hulk. So I'm going to assume that it's, you know, turning Bruce Banner into a 6-12. Maybe it'll have a little effect on it. Maybe it'll have slightly different stats, but this card is so much fun. This, from like from a flavor standpoint, they have knocked it out of the park with this season. Turning Bruce Banner into the Hulk. This is something that I've been wanting in Marvel Snap for so long, and it just shows how much design space there still is in Marvel Snap to be exploring. Now, looking at the effect, currently as it's written, I don't love it. I gave it 2.5 stars because while I think this effect is amazing, 25% chance when you spend unspent energy is really low. And now, if you're getting like a 6-12, if you're getting high Evo Hulk or something, then like if that turns Bruce Banner into like again, that'd be a 212 turning into the Hulk. Maybe it does need to be 25% chance to balance it, but it would not surprise me at all, since this is a data mine, if that went up to like 50% chance. If you think about this, if you play this out on turn 2, and then turn 3, let's say you're playing a high Evo deck, which I expect will absolutely want Bruce Banner, and if you're a high Evo lover like me, would highly recommend getting this card. I know I am. But if you end that, say, third turn, playing like Sunspot and Misty Knight, that's a 1 in 4 chance. Turn 4, you play Cyclops. Turn 5, you play some 4-drop. And then turn 6, you end up playing like a 5-drop or something. Well, that's really like, that's going to be 4 turns of that 25% chance. That'll be a pretty good chance of flipping it. But that means every single turn, that's like, you have to not spend your energy, which means you're not really going to be playing that High Evil Hulk out on turn 6, or Doctor Doom, whatever big 6-drop you want to be doing. So I'm not sure if 25% chance is going to be that right number. I think it's a little too low, and that's, again, if you play it out on turn 2 and then skip every other turn, you'll have a pretty good chance of flipping it. But like, really, if you play this out on turn 5, let's say with like another 2-drop, I mean, that's, and then turn 6 you also float, that's going to be like a 50% chance. Is that going to be enough? Remains to be seen. I think it's going to frustrate a lot of people. I think, 50% chance just initially reads better to me, but such a great card. Absolutely going to be getting it, and I could be totally off base. Maybe just being able to play a 212 will be enough to carry this card. Now we have Rocket Raccoon and Groot, also data mined becoming in Spotlight caches, and this is such a cool ability. He is a 3/3, well, they are, I guess, a 3/3 with the ability you can move this once, and after your opponent plays a card here, steal 1 power from it. So remember, stealing a power is basically a 2-point swing. They will lose a power, and they will gain a power. And this card, I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I think this card is going to be really powerful, and it's also doing exactly what I wanted it to be doing, which is kind of revitalizing that Guardian strategy. You know, playing this out in a lane, much like Nebula, is going to give you a ton of information on where your opponents are likely to play a card. This card also works great with something like Nebula. If you play Nebula out on turn 1 and then slam this out on top of it, that's going to be so good. Because either they let your Nebula gain 2, or they play into that lane and you still gain 2. So it's just this really good scaling threat. It also has that move once ability, and I've seen people like, well, why does it do that? That's so you can put it in a lane and then at any point threaten and just move it on your opponent. If you're expecting, I don't know, a Galactus deck, and you think that they're going to play like Symbiote Spider-Man out with that Galacta card we just went over, you can move that into that lane and then kind of steal it right then and there and then play into that. Like, it's just so cool kind of creative wise. And again, we've seen this stealing power be really powerful. And it's just, I love that it's going to revitalize so many cards that have kind of been going down. Guardians of the Galaxy, Nebula, even Jean Grey. You could play something like Jean Grey and then Rocket Raccoon the Jean Grey lay and play this, or play this in the Jean Grey lay and then play something else somewhere else. You just have so many different options. I could see this just being a generically good card. Are you looking for a 3-drop? Why not a 3/3 that steals any power from your opponent that they're going to play there? And I've seen people be like, oh, well, they just won't play that, play into the Rocket Raccoon and Groot lane. And sure, but they have to play there eventually. And the fact that this is just every card that they play in that lane is going to be a 2-point swing, like, what's a bounce deck going to do? Not play 3 or 4 cards out in there on the last turn? Then that wins you the game with your 3-drop. Or not the game, but at least certainly the lane. So I love this card. It's doing exactly what I wanted it to be doing, and I'm really looking forward to that. And that's going to do it for our Marvel Rival season, but stay with me because we still have the entire Dark Avengers season in January coming. I'm going to be breaking down all those cards, so please, let's break it down, starting with the Season Pass card for the month of January. So to start off the January and Dark Avengers season, we have Iron Patriot, who is a 2/3 with the on reveal, add a random 4, 5, or 6 cost to your hand. If you're winning here, give it -4 cost if you're winning here after next turn. Now, from a flavor standpoint, and I know I've said that a couple of times, but for like what this effect is, 15 out of 10. This is such a cool effect. We've already seen shield cards add cards to your hand. Cards like Nick Fury, Agent 13, Agent Coulson, all these cards that add cards to your hand. Then we've seen effects like Valentina add cards to your hand and give them, reduced costs, and she's kind of the bad guy shield. Iron Patriot, if you don't know, is Norman Osborn. Yes, the Green Goblin, kind of taking over shield, being the Nick Fury after a big supervillain thing. Not to get super into it, but it's Norman Osborn, and just this really cool effect of, giving you that shield card in your hand, but then because it's not Norman Osborn and his ego, he's got to be winning, and then he gives you this huge reduction. Just such a good flavor. I absolutely love this effect, and what a cool ability. I think this whole, if you're winning here next turn, give that card that it generated randomly minus cost. Such a unique effect. We haven't seen anything like this in Marvel Snap. I really love where they're exploring design-wise, and I think this really shows you how much space they have still in the Marvel Snap design if they're coming out with effects like this. So absolute kudos to the second dinner team. Now, how powerful do I think this effect is going to be? I gave this 4.5 out of 5. I think this is going to be a really strong card. Giving like a Shang-Chi or an Enchantress, even something like Rescue or Jessica Jones, if you can get that for free, 0 energy, that is such a powerful effect. And again, even going off of that flavor-wise, we have the Raft, which gives you a free 6-drop, gives you that 0 energy card. This is going to be something kind of similar. Norman Osborn recruits supervillains into the Dark Avengers, kind of doing a mini Raft thing. Absolutely love the flavor. But we have so many ways to almost guarantee you win that Iron Patriot lane. First of all, a lot of decks aren't playing a lot of 1 or 2 drops. A lot of decks really get started on, like, say, turn 3. And if you play this out on turn 2, you can just play Juggernaut, guarantee win that lane. You can play something like Cassandra Nova, that's 9 power. If they didn't have a card there, you're gonna win that lane. I think it's gonna be a lot easier to activate this effect if you're building even a little bit around it. Cards like Juggernaut, Cassandra Nova, even that Rocket and Groot card that we saw, that seems to be coming out in December. If that card stays the same, Nebula, there's so many ways to almost guarantee you win this Iron Patriot lane, and it's such a powerful effect. So again, 4.5 out of 5 cards. I think a lot of decks are going to be looking to squeeze in this Iron Patriot and this some of the cards to go around with him, because these cards are good, and this is such a powerful effect. Then releasing in spotlights that same week as Iron Patriot, the first week of the season, we have Victoria Hand, kind of the right-hand man of the Iron Patriot, Norman Osborn. She is a 2/3, so again, that good stat line. With ongoing, your cards created in your hand have +2 power. So, first of all, obviously this card is going to synergize well with Iron Patriot. She's going to give that 4, 5, or 6 card that Iron Patriot generates +2 power. But there are so many cards in Marvel Snap that generate cards in your hand. Pretty much every shield card, Agent 13, Nick Fury, Agent Coulson, all generate cards in your hand. And if you're asking, that's such a weird wording. Your cards created in your hand. What does this mean? Means it's not cards that didn't start in your deck, like Quinjet is. So Erishim won't get that ongoing +2 power because those cards weren't created in your hand. Same thing, Thor and his hammer will not get that +2 power. Even Cable, I don't think, will get that extra power because it's not creating that card in your hand. It's taking it out of your opponent's deck. So it's going to be cards like Sentinel, which creates a copy of it in your hand. Not going to be a card like Deadpool, but I think it will be a card like Swarm, where you discard it and then generate 2 more in your hand. So a lot of synergy here. I give it 4 out of 5 stars because a 2/3 with that ongoing ability to hit potentially any 5, 6 cards is really powerful. Now, I think it's a bit narrow in where it'll go, but I think it has that power to bring those decks up a level, and I'm really excited for this because we've seen a lot of decks that generate cards, and really like the Agent 13, no one plays it. Nick Fury, no one plays it really, and I think this could be that card. I think they might have found a narrow enough target to buff those cards without creating another Loki scenario, which was a big buff to those cards, but very different play pattern. I'm really looking forward to Victoria Hand and what she's going to bring to Marvel Snap. Then, finally coming to the game, we have Bullseye. I know he's been one of the most requested cards from Marvel Snap, and he is going to be a 4/5 with the activate ability, discard all cards that cost 1 or less from your hand. Then, afflict that many different enemy cards with -2 power. This is a really cool ability. I think most people are going to see the synergy with a card like Swarm, where if you can discard Swarm once, then that'll get it underneath that 1 or less to 0 cost. He will discard each of those swarms, potentially 4 if you discarded like 2 of them. He'll discard all of those, then afflict that many enemy cards with -2 power. He's going to work great with Swarm. He's going to work great with a card like Scorn, which came out. I know Swarm and Scorn. Bullseye is going to be perfect for those. He's also going to work great with, I believe, Dakin. Dakin's going to create that 1 energy Muramasa shard. Bullseye will guarantee get rid of that. And that targeted ability, I think, is really, really interesting with him because you know you're not going to hit a card like MODOK. You know you're not going to hit your Dracula. You can just play this out. It's also activate, so you can activate it whenever you want. You can wait until the last turn to discard a handful of Dakin shards and swarms, or you can play it activate it on turn 5 after you play a card like MODOK, so you can discard that swarm and that Scorn, and then activate the Bullseye, discard those swarms, then that Scorn, afflict your opponent's energy with all that minus power. You can kind of wait. If your opponent's not playing a ton of cards out, you can wait until like the last turn so you guarantee hit as many as possible with that activate. Really unique design. I gave it 3.5 stars just because it does seem limited. Besides Swarm, besides Scorn, and besides Dakin, I don't really see a ton of cards that this will like want to be discarded by Bullseye that can kind of reliably. Maybe you'll just kind of, machine gun out like a million 1-drops, and then on the last turn just activate it, discard an entire hand. Could be, but in general, I don't really see a ton of places besides that one deck, but it does seem like it's going to be a really fun and potentially really powerful deck. Next up, we have Moonstone, who is data mined to be a 4/5, so kind of low stats, but with the ongoing effect of has the ongoing effects of your 1, 2, and 3 cost cards here. So this is basically going to be a mini Onslaught with the kind of caveat of only hitting your 1, 2, or 3 costs. And so kind of, very unique effect. Onslaught is obviously really powerful. A 4-drop Onslaught would be super powerful, but only hitting your 1, 2, and 3 drops. So we really need to be asking ourselves what cards are good to hit there. Cards like Captain America or Punisher really don't see a lot of play, although Moonstone might be powerful enough. Getting another Punisher, getting another Captain America on a 4/5 body could be good enough to just lock down a lane. If you look at a card like Speed, if you get a 3/9 speed, use all your energy for the game. That means this would be a 4/11 Moonstone. That's going to be 20 power just from your 3-drop and your 4-drop, kind of not playing anything else around it. That's a lot of stats. Then you have effects like Patriot. I think Moonstone could actually be really strong in a Patriot build. If you imagine the kind of curve of going Patriot on 3 into Moonstone on 4, then you play Mystique, copy that Moonstone to get another Patriot, could be really strong, and then going into Ultron could give some redundancy to that deck. Then you could also be playing it in just that Spectrum deck. If you are playing like Punisher and Captain America, then you probably will want that Spectrum list. It saw a little bit of play. Maybe Moonstone will be enough to bring it back. I gave this card 3 out of 5 stars. It's a powerful effect, but it's a little limited, and I think we're going to find out if it has a really good home. Also could see some part of this card seeing some changes before the game release, but it's data mined, so you never really know. And for our final Spotlight Cache card of January, although we do have 2 more Dark Avengers data mined, so we will be going into those, we have Ares. Ares is a 4/6 with the on reveal. Compare the power of the top 3 cards of both decks. If your total is higher, +6 power. And I gave this card 5 stars, although this is probably the most likely to change because this card seems like an absolute slam dunk for the Scar or Surtur decks, because Surtur checks for kind of after any resolution. So if you play this out and you have more power in your top 3 cards than your opponent does, which is also an incredibly unique effect. We've never seen anything like this before in Marvel Snap. If you have that more, this will be a 4/12, really good stats, trigger that Surtur, make your Scar cheaper. This is exactly what that deck wants. It wants good 4-drops to trigger that Surtur. That's what this is. It also is a really unique card because we have cards like Drax, which could potentially trigger your Surtur, but it relies on a lot of gameplay, not deck building kind of strategy. Ares is deck building strategy, which I think is a lot easier to accomplish. If you're playing a Surtur deck or a Scar deck, I have to imagine you're pretty consistently going to be having more power in your top 3 cards than your opponent, who's going to be playing like an Ajax list. They could be running the Hood in their list. Meanwhile, if you've got a Scar, a Surtur, and a Crossbones on the top of your deck, I think you're going to have more power than your opponents. Now, it doesn't say anything about seeing those cards. I don't think you are. I think it's just going to be ability that the game's going to check. You won't see anything, but you will see that you have that, 12 power, and so you'll both know that you've got a lot more power coming. So really cool effect, really unique effect. Again, I gave it 5 stars because currently the best deck is that Surtur deck, but if something were to change, the devs have been teasing a juicy OTA coming out on this Thursday, so if any of that were to change, then definitely could see Ares going down, but as of now, this card would break an already broken deck. Moving on to our cards that haven't been data mined to be in Spotlight caches, I imagine that these cards are probably, at least 1 or 2 of them will be released in ways that, like Agony, King of Tyri, events like Deadpool's Diner or High Voltage were released cards. And so what he is, we have Gorgon, who is a 2/3 with the ongoing ability, your opponent's cards that did not start in their deck cost 1 more. And first of all, I just want to say thank God we're finally getting this card. I'm so looking forward to this card. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 just for what this card's doing. I love stacksy kind of effects. I love cards like Mobius that kind of say, no, you have to play fair now. And that's what this is doing. And if you look at all the cards, some of the best cards in Marvel Snap, Arishem, cards like Kate Bishop, Loki traditionally, these are cards that all generated cards, and Gorgon will finally give us a way to just punish our opponent for playing these cards. I'm so thankful personally that this card is going to be in here. And on a 2/3 body, we saw Luke Cage at 2/3 be too good. We saw Mobius on a 2/3 body be too good. I would not be surprised if this card ends up getting nerfed down to a 3/3. It's also, much like Mobius or Luke Cage, it's one-sided. This is going to make it so that you can play cards like Kate Bishop. You could put this in a deck like Arishem and just say, for the mirror, or punish your opponent's Kate Bishops, like I said, without affecting your own cards. That's a really strong ability. It's going to really change Marvel Snap. I know I'm going to be jamming in a ton of games, so I gave it 5 stars, but we'll see how much it actually is, because it's not really a build around, but so thankful this card. It seems like this could have fixed a lot of problems in Marvel Snap, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it. And finally, for her final card, thank you so much for making it through all this with me. I know it's a lot of cards, but I was just so excited to get this out. I love data mines. I love looking and theory crafting at the cards that are going to be coming, and these 2 seasons look so amazing. I had to get this video out for you guys, and if you've made it this far, consider hitting that subscribe button, consider hitting that like button. I come out with lots of Marvel Snap videos. I'm going to be having decks for all these new cards. Don't want you guys to miss it, and I really just enjoy doing this. We're close to getting into the Marvel Snap Content Creator Program, which would be so cool. But to get into our final card, again, I think this card is going to be something like an Agony release, and if you look, I only gave it 1 star, but she is Toxie Doxie, the Poisoner. If you're wondering what's going on in the art, she is kind of a master poison, so she's a 2/4, so good stats, but with the on reveal, draw a card, amazing, but you can't play cards next turn. So Really, really unique effect. I give this card a 1 star, but I by no means think this card is unplayable. It's a 2/4 that's going to draw you a card. There are going to be decks that want that. Cards like War Machine will help you mitigate that. If you play War Machine on 4 and then this on turn 5, that'll just be a 2/4 that draws you a card. You can play it in cards decks like Hela that really don't care about playing a card on turn 3 all that time. Like, yeah, sure, they'll play maybe a Lady Sif or a Luke Cage out on turn 3 sometimes, but really they need to hit that Hela, and Toxie Doxie could absolutely be that card, especially skipping turn 3 and then playing out like a blinking the Toxie Doxie after you drew a card to get something big out or another discard card. Sunspot could also help you kind of mitigate that ability by just absorbing it. I don't think this card's unplayable, but this is not just going to be a generically strong card. I think very unique decks are going to want this effect, but I think they will exist. And it is, again, a really cool ability. Just a 2/4 draw card obviously doesn't exist in Marvel Snap, and I'm really interested to see if people can create kind of a best deck for Toxie Doxie. Well, that is going to do it for our video today. Hopefully it wasn't too long, but thank you so much for making it to the end of this. I'm Unfit Parrot. I've got Marvel Snap videos here, multiple decks a week, multiple data mined videos, and thank you so much for being here. I will see you guys all in the next one.